The fluorescent lights of Rosewood Diner buzzed overhead as Maya Rodriguez wiped down the sticky counter for what felt like the 1,000th time that evening. The autumn rain pelted against the windows of the small-town Ohio establishment, creating rivulets that distorted the view of Main Street's modest storefronts. At 23, Maya had been working at the diner since high school graduation, serving coffee and pie to the same familiar faces day after day. "Maya, honey, table 6 needs their check," called out Dolores, the head waitress, whose beehive hairdo had remained unchanged since the 1980s. Maya nodded, grabbing the receipt printer's latest offering and making her way across the checkered linoleum floor. The elderly couple at table 6 smiled warmly as she approached. "Thank you, dear," the woman said, her husband already reaching for his wallet. "You know, you always brighten our day with that sense of humor of yours." Maya's face lit up with genuine warmth. "Well, Mrs. Henderson, someone's got to keep things interesting around here. Otherwise, we'd all fall asleep in our meatloaf." The couple chuckled as they stood to leave, Mr. Henderson leaving a generous tip. "You should be on television, sweetheart. You're funnier than half those comedians we see." As the bell above the door chimed their departure, Maya felt that familiar flutter in her chest, the same feeling she got every time someone mentioned her comedic talents. She'd been making people laugh for as long as she could remember, turning awkward family dinners into comedy shows, and transforming her high school classes into her personal audience. But here in Rosewood, population 8,432, dreams like stand-up comedy seemed as foreign as space travel. The diner's owner, Frank Kowalski, emerged from the kitchen wiping his hands on a grease-stained apron. His weathered face bore the expression of a man who'd seen too many young people come and go from his establishment. "Maya, we need to talk," he said, his Polish accent still thick after 30 years in America. "Business is slow. I might have to cut some hours." Maya's stomach dropped. Her paycheck barely covered her share of the rent in the tiny apartment she shared with her cousin Jennifer. Any reduction in hours would mean choosing between groceries and gas money. "Frank, please. I'll work extra shifts. Cover for anyone who calls in sick." "Is not about work ethic," Frank interrupted, his expression softening. "You good worker. But you young, smart. You should think about future. Maybe go to community college. Learn something practical." That word again, practical. Maya had heard it countless times from her parents, her guidance counselor, her relatives at family gatherings. Be practical. Get a steady job. Don't chase fantasies. The bell chimed again as a group of teenagers entered, shaking rain from their jackets and laughing loudly. Maya recognized them from Rosewood High School, probably seniors like she'd been just 5 years ago. They settled into a large booth, and Maya approached with menus. "Hey, aren't you that funny girl who used to do those impressions of Mr. Peterson?" one of them asked, his eyes lighting up with recognition. "Guilty as charged," Maya replied, slipping into her old high school drama teacher's distinctive nasal voice. "Now class, today we'll be exploring the deep emotional complexity of sitting quietly." The table erupted in laughter, and Maya felt that electric connection she'd always craved, the moment when her words could transform a room, make people forget their troubles, create joy from nothing but timing and truce. "You should totally try out for Saturday Night Live or something," one of the girls suggested between giggles. "Yeah, right," scoffed another. "People from Rosewood don't do stuff like that. Besides, Maya's got a good job here." The comment stung more than Maya cared to admit. She forced a smile and took their orders, but her mind was elsewhere, replaying every conversation she'd had about her dreams over the past 5 years. Later that evening, Maya sat in her cramped bedroom in the apartment she shared with Jennifer, scrolling through her phone. Her laptop was open on her desk, displaying a half-finished application for Los Angeles community colleges. She'd been working on it for months, researching comedy clubs, open mic nights, and affordable neighborhoods in the City of Angels. Jennifer knocked on the door frame. "You okay? You've been quiet since you got home." Maya looked up at her cousin, who worked as a dental assistant and had recently gotten engaged to her high school sweetheart. Jennifer represented everything their family considered successful: stable job, local boyfriend, predictable future. Just thinking, Maya replied. Frank might cut my hours. Maybe it's a sign, Jennifer said, settling on the edge of the bed. You could apply at the medical center. They're always looking for receptionists and the benefits are great. Maya stared at her laptop screen, at the comedy club websites she'd bookmarked, at the videos of stand-up performances that made her heart race with possibility. Jen, what if I told you I was thinking about moving to Los Angeles? Jennifer's eyebrows shot up. LA? Maya, that's crazy expensive and dangerous. Plus, you don't know anyone there. I've been researching it for months. I could get a serving job to pay the bills while I work on comedy. There are open mics every night, comedy classes, actual opportunities. Maya, honey, I love you, but comedy isn't a career. It's a hobby. You need health insurance, retirement savings, stability. What happens when you're 40 and still waiting tables, hoping for your big break? The words hit Maya like cold water, echoing every doubt she'd ever harbored about herself. But as she looked at her reflection in her laptop screen, she saw something else, determination flickering behind the uncertainty. What if I make it? She asked quietly. Jennifer sighed. What if you don't? That night, Maya lay awake, listening to the rain against her window, her mind churning with possibilities and fears. In the distance, she could hear the freight train that passed through Rosewood every night at 11:47 p.m., carrying cargo to destinations unknown. Tomorrow, she decided she would finish that application. The question wasn't whether she was ready for Los Angeles. The question was whether Los Angeles was ready for her. The U-Haul truck's engine wheezed as Maya navigated through the congested lanes of Interstate 405, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. The Los Angeles skyline stretched before her like a mirage through the smog-hazed afternoon, all glass towers and billboard promises. In the passenger seat sat a cardboard box containing her most precious possessions, notebooks filled with jokes, a worn copy of the Comedy Bible, and a framed photo of her grandmother who'd always encouraged her dreams. 3 weeks had passed since that rainy night in Rosewood when she'd finally submitted her application and bought her one-way ticket to California. The farewell dinner at her parents' house had been a mixture of tearful hugs and barely concealed disapproval. Mija, you could still change your mind, her mother had whispered, pressing a container of homemade tamales into her hands. There's nothing wrong with staying close to family. Her father had been less subtle. 2 years, Maya. If you're not making real money in 2 years, you come home and get serious about your life. Now, as she pulled into the parking lot of the Sunset Arms apartments in North Hollywood, Maya wondered if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. The building looked nothing like the photos online. Paint peeling from the stucco walls, a kidney-shaped pool that had seen better decades, and the lingering scent of cigarettes and broken dreams. Her phone buzzed with a text from her new roommate, Zoe. Unit 204, doors unlocked. Welcome to paradise. Maya climbed the concrete stairs, her legs shaky from the 3-day drive. She knocked before entering, calling out, Zoe, it's Maya. In here, came a voice from what Maya assumed was the kitchen. The apartment was tiny but clean, with mismatched furniture and walls covered in headshots and comedy show flyers. Zoe Chen emerged from the kitchenette, a petite Asian-American woman with purple-streaked hair and an infectious smile. She was Maya's age and had been performing stand-up for 2 years while working as a barista. You made it, Zoe exclaimed, pulling Maya into an unexpected hug. How was the drive? Did your car survive? More importantly, did you? Barely, Maya laughed, immediately feeling some of her tension ease. This place is cozy. That's realtor speak for you'll bump into each other constantly, Zoe grinned. But it's cheap, relatively clean, and only 2 miles from the Laugh Track, which has the best open mic night for beginners. Plus, our neighbor, Mrs. Kim, makes incredible Korean food and occasionally shares. As if on cue, delicious aromas wafted through the thin walls, making Maya's stomach growl. She'd survived on gas station snacks for the past day. Speaking of food, Zoe continued, there's a taco truck on the corner that's actually affordable. Want to grab dinner and I'll fill you in on the comedy scene? 20 minutes later, they sat at a plastic table outside El Corazon Taco Truck, the evening air warm and filled with the sounds of traffic and distant music. Maya bit into her al pastor taco, and closed her eyes in appreciation. It was better than anything she'd had in Ohio. "Okay, Comedy Survival 101, Zoe began, pulling out her phone to show Maya a notes app. "First rule, everyone here is funny. Back home, you were probably the funniest person in your town. Here, you're competing with people who've been doing this since they were kids. People with connections, people with trust funds who can afford to work for free." Maya's confidence dipped. "That's encouraging. I'm not trying to scare you," Zoe said quickly. "I'm preparing you. Second rule, it's going to take longer than you think. I've been here 2 years and I'm just now getting regular spots at decent clubs. Most people give up after 6 months. What kept you going?" Zoe's expression grew serious. "The same thing that brought you here. That feeling when a room full of strangers laughs at something that came from your brain. It's like a drug, and I'm completely addicted." They finished their tacos as Zoe outlined the ecosystem of LA comedy. The hierarchy of clubs from dingy bar open mics to prestigious venues like the Comedy Store. The importance of networking, the reality of day jobs, and the emotional roller coaster of constant rejection, punctuated by occasional victories. "Tomorrow night, I'm taking you to your first open mic," Zoe announced. "The Laugh Track has a newcomer-friendly crowd. 5 minutes cash-only cover and they'll let anyone sign up." Maya's stomach fluttered with excitement and terror. "I don't know if I'm ready. Nobody's ever ready. That's the point. You want to know what my first set was like? I literally forgot my name when they called me up. Stood there for 30 seconds of dead silence before I remembered I was supposed to be funny. What happened? I bombed spectacularly, but I got through it, and the second time was better. The third time was worse. The fourth time, I got my first real laugh. That's how it works. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, occasionally falling flat on your face." As they walked back to the apartment, Maya noticed details she'd missed earlier. The diversity of the neighborhood, the mix of languages floating from open windows, the energy of a city that never quite settled down. Street art covered building walls with colors that seemed to pulse in the neon light. "One more thing," Zoe said as they climbed the stairs to their apartment. "Your family and friends back home aren't going to understand what you're doing here. They'll ask when you're getting a real job or when you're coming home. You'll question yourself constantly. But if you're serious about this, you have to commit completely. Half-hearted doesn't work in this city." That night, Maya lay on the air mattress in her new bedroom, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of Los Angeles. Sirens, late-night conversations in Spanish, the distant hum of traffic that never stopped. Her phone showed 7 missed calls from her mother and a string of worried texts from Jennifer. She opened her notebook and began writing new material. Inspired by the culture shock of her first day in LA, the jokes felt different here. Sharper, more observational, influenced by the rapid-fire pace and endless stimulation of the city. Outside her window, the Hollywood sign glowed faintly in the distance, a beacon for dreamers and a graveyard for those who couldn't handle the pressure. Maya stared at it for a long time, then returned to her notebook. Tomorrow, she would step onto her first LA stage. Tonight, she would prepare to either rise or fall. Either way, there was no going back now. 18 months had passed since Maya's first open mic night at the Laugh Track. A disaster she still preferred not to think about. Now, she stood behind the counter of Grounds for Success, a trendy coffee shop in West Hollywood, her apron stained with espresso and her smile wearing thin as she served her 100th pretentious order of the day. "I need a half-calf, oat milk cortado with Madagascar vanilla, and a dash of cinnamon, but make sure the cinnamon is organic," demanded a woman in designer athleisure, her phone pressed to her ear as she rattled off modifications without making eye contact. "Coming right up," Maya replied through gritted teeth, already mentally crafting a bit about entitled coffee customers for tonight's set at the Rusty Anchor, a dive bar in Venice that let comedians perform in exchange for selling drink tickets. The morning rush had been particularly brutal. Between the aspiring actors discussing their latest auditions and the tech bros bragging about their startups, Maya felt like she was drowning in other people's ambitions, while her own seemed to stagnate. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "Got us both spots at the Underground tonight, 7 minutes each. This could be our break." Maya's heart raced. The Underground was a step up from their usual venues, a legitimate comedy club where industry people occasionally showed up. 7 minutes was also more time than she'd ever been given, a chance to really develop her material instead of cramming everything into a frantic 5-minute sprint. "Maya," called Marcus, the coffee shop manager from behind the espresso machine. "Your break's in 5. Don't forget you're closing tonight." Maya's stomach sank. Closing meant she wouldn't get off work until 11 p.m., and the Underground show started at 9. She'd have to choose between a potential career opportunity and keeping the job that paid her rent. During her break, she stepped into the alley behind the shop and called her parents. The phone rang 4 times before her mother answered. "Mija! How are you? We haven't heard from you in 2 weeks." "I'm fine, Mom. Just busy with work and shows." Maya leaned against the brick wall, watching a homeless man dig through the dumpster. "How's everyone back home?" "Good, good. Jennifer got a promotion at the dental office. She's making almost $40,000 now, plus benefits. And your cousin Roberto just bought a house, a real house with a yard and everything." Each update felt like a small weight added to Maya's chest. "That's great, Mom. You know, Mija, there's still time to come home. Dr. Peterson's practice is looking for a receptionist. Good pay, steady hours, and you'd be close to family again." Maya closed her eyes. "I can't give up now, Mom. Things are starting to happen here." "Starting to happen? Maya, you've been there for over a year and you're still serving coffee. When I was your age, I already had you and your brother, a house, stability. Different times, Mom, different dreams." The conversation continued for another 10 minutes, each word a reminder of how far she felt from both her old life and her goals. When she hung up, Maya sat in the alley for the remaining minutes of her break, watching the sun reflect off the windows of the high-rise apartments she could never afford. Back inside, she found Marcus restocking cups behind the counter. "Marcus, I need to ask you something. I know I'm supposed to close tonight, but I have this comedy show." "Maya, we've talked about this. Your comedy stuff can't interfere with your job here. You've already switched shifts 3 times this month." "I know, but this venue is different. Real industry people go there. It could change everything." Marcus looked up from the cups, his expression a mixture of sympathy and frustration. "Look, I get it. Everyone in this city has a dream, but I've got a business to run, and I need reliable employees. If you can't commit to your schedule, maybe this isn't the right fit." The threat hung in the air between them. Maya knew he was right from a business perspective, but the thought of missing the Underground opportunity made her chest tight with panic. "What if I found someone to cover for me? Just this once?" "Fine. But if you can't find coverage, you're working. No exceptions." Maya spent the next 3 hours during slow periods texting every co-worker, offering to trade shifts, cover their future closes, even pay them directly. Most didn't respond. 2 said they already had plans. 1 demanded $50 to cover a 4-hour shift. With 2 hours left before the Underground show, Maya stood in the coffee shop bathroom, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror. Her eyes were shadowed with exhaustion, her hair pulled back in a messy bun that had long given up any pretense of style. She looked like exactly what she was, a barista in her mid-20s whose dreams were slowly being ground down by the daily reality of survival. Her phone rang. It was Zoe. "Where are you?" "I'm at the Underground doing sound check. The room looks amazing tonight. Packed house." "I'm stuck at work. Couldn't find coverage." The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Maya wondered if the call had dropped. "Maya," Zoe said finally, her voice careful. "How bad do you want this?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you going to let a coffee shop job kill your dream? Because that's what's happening right now. Every opportunity you miss, every excuse you make, every time you choose safety over possibility, you're not preserving your dream. You're killing it slowly." Maya looked around the bathroom, at the flickering fluorescent light, the peeling paint, the motivational poster someone had ironically hung next to the toilet that read "Dream Big." "If I don't show up for work, I could lose my job. If you don't show up for your life, you'll definitely lose your dream." Maya made her decision. She walked back to the counter where Marcus was training a new employee on the register. "Marcus, I'm sorry, but I have to leave. This opportunity could change my entire career." His face hardened. "Maya, if you walk out now, don't bother coming back." Maya untied her apron with shaking hands. "I understand. As she pushed through the coffee shop door into the late afternoon sun, Maya felt terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. She had $40 in her checking account, no job, and 7 minutes to prove that the last 18 months of struggle had been worth it. But for the first time since arriving in Los Angeles, she was choosing her dream over her fear. The underground was waiting. 3 years later, Maya stood backstage at the Dolby Theatre, her hands trembling as she adjusted her microphone pack. Through the curtain, she could hear the murmur of 3,000 people settling into their seats. The sold-out crowd represented everything she'd dreamed of during those lonely nights in her North Hollywood apartment. Every rejection, every bombing, every moment she'd questioned her sanity for leaving Ohio. 5 minutes to showtime, Maya, called James, her tour manager, clipboard in hand and headset crackling with production chatter. Your family just arrived. They're in the VIP section. Maya's stomach fluttered. Her parents had flown in from Ohio that morning, along with Jennifer, her cousin Roberto, and even Frank from the diner. The same people who'd called her crazy for chasing comedy were now sitting in premium seats, waiting to watch her headline one of Los Angeles's most prestigious venues. The journey from the underground to here hadn't been linear. That night when she'd quit the coffee shop, her 7-minute set had indeed changed everything, but not in the way she'd expected. She'd performed well, gotten some laughs, but the real breakthrough had come from Marcus Rodriguez, a talent scout who'd approached her afterward. You've got something different, he'd said, handing her his card. Raw, authentic. Most comedians here are performing versions of themselves they think will sell. You're just being you. That meeting had led to her first paying gig, then a regular spot at a mid-tier club, then opening for established comedians. Each step forward had come with setbacks. Bombing in front of industry executives, losing bookings to more connected performers, months where she'd survived on ramen and the occasional comedy contest prize money. The real turning point had come 18 months ago, when a video of her performing material about small-town Ohio life had gone viral. Suddenly, everyone wanted the authentic Midwest voice she'd been developing. Netflix offered her a special, then a development deal for her own show. Now, as she peeked through the curtain at the packed theater, Maya spotted familiar faces scattered throughout the audience. Zoe sat in the third row, beaming with pride. She'd become a successful comedy writer and Maya's best friend. Kim from their old apartment building had somehow gotten tickets and was waving enthusiastically. Even some of her former coffee shop co-workers had shown up, but it was the VIP section that made her chest tight with emotion. Her parents sat stiffly in their seats, her father wearing the same suit he'd worn to her high school graduation, her mother clutching a program like a sacred document. Jennifer had brought her fiancé and was taking selfies with the theater backdrop. They all looked overwhelmed and proud and slightly confused by the glamour surrounding them. Maya, a production assistant, appeared at her elbow. There's someone here to see you. Says he's from your hometown? Maya turned to see Frank Kowalski shuffling toward her, looking deeply uncomfortable in an ill-fitting sport coat, his weathered hands clutching a small wrapped package. Frank! Maya's eyes filled with tears as she hugged the man who'd once told her to be practical. You came all this way? Couldn't miss it, he said gruffly, his Polish accent thicker when he was emotional. Whole town is watching tonight. Rosewood Diner is having watch party. First time we ever closed early for something good. He pressed the package into her hands. From everyone back home, we were wrong to doubt you. Maya unwrapped it to find a small snow globe containing a miniature version of Rosewood's Main Street, complete with a tiny figure standing behind the diner counter. When she shook it, instead of snow, little gold stars swirled around the scene. Now you carry home with you wherever you go, Frank said quietly. But you don't need us anymore. You built something bigger. I'll always need home, Maya whispered, clutching the globe. It's where I learned to find humor in ordinary things. The lights dimmed in the theater, and Maya heard her introduction beginning. 3,000 people fell silent as the announcer's voice boomed through the sound system. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, direct from her sold-out national tour, Maya Rodriguez. Maya walked onto the stage, the spotlight warm on her face, the applause washing over her like a wave. She could barely make out individual faces in the crowd, but she knew they were all there. everyone who'd supported her, doubted her, shaped her journey. "Thank you," she said into the microphone, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You know, 3.5 years ago, I was serving coffee in West Hollywood, living in an apartment so small that when I opened the refrigerator, I had to step outside." The audience laughed, and Maya felt that familiar electricity, stronger now, but still the same thrill she'd discovered at the Rosewood Diner. "My family thought I was crazy for leaving Ohio to pursue comedy. My dad said, 'Maya, comedians don't come from places like Rosewood.' And I said, 'Dad, you're right. That's exactly why they need to.'" Another wave of laughter, and Maya could see her father in the VIP section, shaking his head but smiling. For the next hour, Maya took the audience through her journey, the culture shock of Los Angeles, the grinding poverty of pursuing dreams, the small victories and major defeats, all filtered through the lens of humor that had carried her through the darkest moments. She talked about the night she quit her job to perform at the Underground, about learning that success meant defining it for yourself, about discovering that the people who laugh at your dreams often become the first ones to celebrate your achievements. As she reached her closing bit, Maya looked directly at the VIP section. "They say you should never go back home again, that success changes you. But I think the real change isn't in who you become. It's in finally becoming who you always were, just with better lighting and a bigger audience." The standing ovation lasted nearly 5 minutes. As Maya took her final bow, confetti cannons exploded, filling the air with gold streamers that caught the stage lights like falling stars. Later, at the after party, Maya found herself surrounded by industry executives, fellow comedians, and celebrities who wanted to congratulate her. But the moment she treasured most was when her mother pulled her aside, tears streaming down her face. "Mija," she said in Spanish, "I'm sorry we didn't understand. You were right to follow your heart." Maya hugged her mother tightly, then looked around the room at all the people who joined her journey, the believers, the doubters, the friends who'd become family, and the family who'd learned to believe. She pulled out her phone and posted a single photo, the snow globe Frank had given her with the caption, "They laughed when I left home. Tonight, we're all laughing together. Dreams don't have expiration dates." The post would go viral by morning, inspiring thousands of others to chase their own impossible dreams. But Maya didn't know that yet. For now, she just savored the moment, surrounded by love and laughter, finally understanding that the best comedy comes from the most honest places. Home had always been with her. Now she'd simply made it big enough for everyone.